Leicester City have appointed a young, up-and-coming manager in Ruud van Nistelrooy. Manchester United have appointed one of the most highly sought-after tacticians in Ruben Amorim. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have Everton Football Club, who are in what can only be considered a crisis. At the time of recording, they sit 15th place in the Premier League, just 2 points above the relegation zone, having won just 2 of the 13 games played so far, with 3 of their last 7 ending in 0-0 draws. And in that time, they only scored 3 goals also. Truly, it feels as though the club have stagnated. They have been narrowly surviving relegation for the past 3 years, even scraping survival on the final day of the 2022-23 season, with a last gasp winner against Bournemouth just about being enough to make sure they remained in the top flight. And the Toffees seem to be directionless under an ownership who plummeted the club into a financial crisis. I mean, you just need to look at some of their signings in recent years to understand why they are as financially destitute the way they are. However, while it's easy to look at the ownership and blame them for a lack of smart investment, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, with the Toffees' sale to the Free King Group seemingly on its way to a conclusion as they look to purchase Farhad Mashiri's 94% stake in the club. So with that, we may see something similar to what happened following Newcastle's takeover in 2021, when the club sacked manager Steve Bruce, seeing him replaced by a long-term successor in the form of Eddie Howe. This was a sign of the club showing ambition, moving on from a manager who'd clearly reached the limit of his tactical ability and moving on to someone who could progress the club forward for a good few years to come, providing the results were going in the right direction. And this is similar to the problem Everton face right now. Sean Dyche, while a proven Premier League manager, is very rigid and unimaginative with regards to his approach to attacking football. At the time of recording, Everton ranked joint 20th for goals scored, 17th for progressive carries and passes, and 1st for attempted long balls, while also 20th for attempted short passes and 19th for medium passes, showing a real lack of creativity and a desire to still play Route 1 football in an age of possession-based, transition-focused football. Clearly, Sean Dyche has reached the limit of his ability to progress the club beyond Premier League survival, and when the new ownership come in, it's clear they need to bring in someone who can develop the squad and instill a philosophy of playing to give Everton an identity beyond lump it and pray. Now, there are several managers being touted with the job. The likes of Graham Potter and Gareth Southgate spring to mind, but there is one man who is out of work who would suit the club perfectly, and that man is former Porto boss Sergio Conceicao. Conceicao is regarded as one of the greatest managers in the Portuguese league of the 2000s, winning 3 league titles, 4 Portuguese cups, and becoming the 3rd manager to achieve that feat, also developing players who had gone to become mainstays in the top 5 European divisions. Today, we're going to look at how Sergio Conceicao's tactics would get the best out of this Everton side, which players would suit his style of play, and why he would be the perfect fit for Everton Football Club. Firstly, we need to gain an understanding of how Conceicao set up his sides, or more specifically, his Porto side of the 23-24 season. Now, while Sean Dyche often receives criticism for his reliance on a 4-4-2 formation, that's not something we're going to do here today, because Conceicao plays the same style of formation, but with the focus being on flexibility as opposed to rigidity like Dyche's methods. Now, towards the end of his spell at Porto, he would interchange between this 4-4-2 formation and a 4-2-3-1 in order to maintain his style of possession-based football, which is worked out from the back, as is the way for many modern teams. In the first phase of possession, Porto would work with a 2-2 build-up structure, meaning that the 2 centre-backs and 2 midfielders would stay together in some sort of a box-like shape, whilst the full-backs were positioned slightly higher. Now, if you look at Everton's lineup from their game against Brentford a week ago, you'll see Tarkowski and Branthwaite starting in the back line as the centre-back partnership, with Doucouré and Guéhi just ahead of them in the midfield 4. This season, those 4 players rank 2nd, 5th, 7th and 8th for passes attempted in the Everton squad, with the full-backs Young and Mikolenko ranking 1st and 6th also in this metric. This bodes well for Conceicao's system, with their 6 players showing they have the passing ability to maintain possession in the back line and deep midfield. And while several of these players aren't quite to the quality needed to return Everton to their glory days, they're a solid jumping off point for the potential manager. Now, as we've already mentioned, Conceicao's system is heavily possession-based, with him liking his side to recycle the ball rather than take unnecessary risks going forward until there's open space for the midfielders to carry the ball into. However, that doesn't mean he isn't open to the idea of his team having less of the ball throughout the 90 minutes. In an interview he gave a few years ago, the former Porto manager said this: "We had 40-60% possession of the ball, which is not a scandal. I didn't mind having 30 to 70% possession and winning as well. It all depends on what you do with the ball." This goes massively in this Everton squad favour, with them sitting 19th in the Premier League for possession, averaging just 40.9% per 90 minutes, which is just 0.01% higher than newly promoted Ipswich Town. This means that the transition to Conceicao's style of football would become a gradual approach, with him understanding that his blueprint won't be implemented straight away and allowing the side to stick with what they're comfortable with until the man they bring in with his own signings capable of playing his exact style of football. Now, one major issue Everton have is attacking talent, with Calvert-Lewin scoring just 2 goals this season and Beto scoring just 1. The attackers are often found to be isolated with a lack of attacking options available, meaning they lose possession unnecessarily up front, seeing them hit on the counter-attack. One remedy Conceicao has for this is his main attacker often comes deep for the ball. The ball can go through the forward into the attack, and as Porto progress possession, their players don't necessarily have set positions, at least not in the way you might be used to seeing. As the side progresses into attack, the side switch to a 2-4-4 formation, with the attacking fullbacks rotating positions with the wingers and forwards to create a sense of confusion for opposition's defences. As the play builds up, the fullbacks will sit level with the midfielders to create ample opportunities for the 4 attacking players, with them moving forward as the ball is played in towards them. In this shape, the wingers will often come towards the inside, and interchangeably one of either central attackers will drop deeper to receive the ball or take a defender with him to create space for the other. But it's also in this phase where the fullbacks become crucial, as they often are at the base of Porto's wide attacks. The fullbacks will combine with the other wide attackers on the flanks at that moment to set up quick 1-2s and triangles to help progress the attack. Here, the 2 players out wide and the attacker who stayed higher up the pitch in some way combine to set that attack up, one of the many occasions where an attacking rotation is utilised. This is what the manager wants, as this makes his side completely unpredictable to play against, which is something Everton have struggled with, especially in recent games, with them struggling to find any major attacking rhythm. Now, while this means defenders will more than likely stick to a man-marking system to try and limit the confusion, you'll notice that throughout matches, Conceicao likes one of his wingers to remain wide from the other 3 attacking players, and there is a reason for this. With the other team's defenders finding themselves occupied trying to manage the attacking threat of the other 3 players in the attack, the wide winger will often find himself in one-on-one situations with opposition fullbacks. This would be a huge benefit for someone like NDI, who ranks highest in the Everton squad for dribbles attempted and completed, and also someone like Dwight McNeil, who has the highest dribble success rate of the Everton attacking players. Now, defensively, Porto under Conceicao like to apply heavy pressure on the ball and from the front. If you watched any of his Porto matches, you will have often noticed them pressing with 3 players forward, then their 2 midfielders and 1 tucked-in winger, rarely focusing on applying pressure on the ball. This results in some sort of a 4-2-1-3 formation. With this, they're able to win the ball high up the pitch and put the opposition on the back foot, and honestly, the Everton fan base will love that. The issue with the style of football that Dyche plays, and even previous managers like Benitez and Allardyce, is that it doesn't get the crowd invested in the football. One of Everton's biggest assets is that home crowd, and while they're making the transition from Goodison Park into their new home, the Everton Stadium, they are going to want to see some energy and tenacity to set up a tempo that opposition sides will fear. Due to their heavy pressing, Porto play with a very high line, an approach that allows them to quickly and easily transition into their attacking setup and progress the ball into the final third. While Porto's approach is possession heavy, their quick passing in the middle and attacking third allows for dangerous transitions and an unpredictable attacking side. Now, this is something that will require them to invest in the back line, with Tarkowski and Young not exactly the fastest of players, but in an attacking sense, players like Mikalenko, who ranks third in the Everton squad for crosses, will find a lot of joy in the creative freedom this style of attacking football will present to him. Now, with all this in mind, I honestly think Conceicao would be the perfect man to come in and progress the club beyond the rigid style of football being displayed by Sean Dyche's side. This isn't meant to be any sort of disrespect to the established Premier League manager, but there has clearly been a peak reached by the former Burnley boss. Now, one more reason why Conceicao would be a hit with the Everton fan base is his personality, which has been described as fiery and determined. He isn't afraid of a challenge, and he's often shown to be a strong leader and someone who will tackle problems head on. This would resonate with Everton fans who haven't had any sort of character like this in a long time. I honestly believe that the Portuguese manager would get the absolute best out of this Everton side and would progress the club forward on the pitch after they make the transition into their next phase of their life cycle. And that is the video. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you everyone for subscribing. Please make sure to click like and subscribe. We want to reach 3,000 by the end of the year, and I will see you all in the next video.